Yo, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. I'm glasseyed or Morgan. We're back today with another production breakdown video. For those of you who don't know, I'm an artist. I make like heavy music that's very inspired by like metalcore, new metal, heavy shoegaze, that kind of thing. And over the last few videos, I have been breaking down all of the production from the tracks on my newest EP, Death Wish. This is gonna be the last video in this series. This is the last track that we have to go through. This one is called Out of Frame. Probably the heaviest track on the EP, I would say. It's got none of the clean singing or shoegaze elements that a lot of the other tracks do have. This one is just straight riffs and breakdowns the whole way through, which is always fun. It's very inspired by bands like Throne or Alpha Wolf. I guess that like semi-nu metal revival thing, but with a hardcore edge. So I'm gonna take you through the track today and show you how I achieved those kind of sounds for it. Get straight into it. The track opens with a kind of filtered version of the main riff, which then breaks into the hook.
I gave it my all and got nowhere. Turning in my grave, it seems there's all that's left for me. I gave it my all.
So we can use this hook section to go through all of the main parts of the track because all of the most important elements are present here. So we can start with arguably the most important part of the track actually, which is the drum sound. I've gone through my drum chain before on this channel, but I'm going to go through it a little bit again here because the drums are so essential to this track. So the basis of the drum chain that we have going on here is Get Good Drums Invasion. That's the bass sample library that I'm using. This is an amazing sounding sample library out of the box, but what's really important about how I'm using it here is all of the channels here, like the kick, the snare, etc. They're all routed out of Contact and into separate channels within Ableton. You can see them all here. This is really important because it allows me to process each element of the drums separately. So for example, if you look at the snare track here, you can see I've got isotope trash to adding some multi-band distortion. We've got some like tape saturation and stuff happening on the high end and a bit of a push in the mids as well, just to add some drive and bite to the snare. And having the channels routed separately out of Contact is really important to allow you the control to do that kind of thing with each separate element of the drum kit. Layered then on top of those Get Good Drum samples, we also have some third-party kick and snare samples that I will show you here. I'm gonna turn the samples off and play you the raw drums and then turn them on. You'll hear the difference it makes. This is without the samples. And then with. So you can hear how huge of a difference that makes. It's just, they're giving the snare that huge gunshot sound and they're adding that little extra bit of clickiness and presence to the kicks as well. The samples that I'm using have been on my hard drive for ages. I can't quite remember where I got them, to be honest, but there is so many different multi-sampled kicks and snares out there on the internet. You can find them really, really easily, but getting the right ones can make a huge difference to your drum sound. You can also use Get Good Drums just straight out of the box and just put more work into processing the individual kicks and snares, but I find that it makes the process a little bit easier to just work with multiple different sample layers. So that's the drums. They stay pretty consistent throughout the song. There isn't much change in the processing that happens. For now, we can move on to the guitars. You can hear really, really, really down-tuned. This track was recorded on a Sub-Zero baritone guitar, and it was tuned to double drop D. So regular drop D, but a full octave down. This puts it pretty cleanly in the bass guitar range. And the way that I have this particular track arranged, the rhythm guitars are actually playing in the exact same octave as the bass guitar. So effectively, the guitars are tuned down an octave, but the bass is not. The bass is playing in regular drop D. This is really important, I feel, for getting this like wall of sound vibe going on in those lower frequencies, but it does present a bit of a challenge because you need to make sure that each instrument is making enough room for the other. So that requires a little bit of like fine tuning with regards to production and arrangement, but when you get it right, you get this huge low end sound. Very, very inspired in this production decision by bands like Loathe, who use those super low tuned baritone guitars to achieve this kind of sound. The amp sim I'm using for this guitar tone is Fortin Nameless. I generally bounce between Fortin Nameless and Gojira, but I find for ultra low tunings, Nameless is just incomparable. It's amazing. We've also got Gojira here, but all this is doing is providing some pitch automation, like octave shifts and stuff like that. EQ wise, we've got a little bit of a cut on the really low end of the guitars here and up on the higher end. We've also got this top section boosted up around 1.92K just to provide a little bit of clarity in those upper mids. Both the left and right rhythm guitars are then being sent to this group here. And on this group, or bus, I guess, if you're using a different DAW, they're both running through another EQ, some multi-band compression, we've got OTT going on here, and then some dynamic EQing as well. If I play you this guitar track here, I'll turn the multi-band compression on and off. You'll see the difference it's making. So you can hear it really amping up the presence and just tightening the whole thing up. Then what this dynamic EQ here is being used for is basically to duck some of these upper mid frequencies of the guitar out of the way of the vocals when they come through. So I'll play you the track here and you'll see the EQ dipping when the vocals come through.
I gave it my all and got nowhere.
And basically that just allows the vocals to shine through the rest of the instrumental, because those distorted guitars can take up a lot of similar frequency ranges to the vocals. So I find it kind of helps just to do a really subtle, like, side chained EQ dip. So that's the guitar tone. However, in this particular track, for this particular sound, I would say the most important parts of the guitar tone are actually these other two elements that are layered on top of it, which is a synth layer and the bass tone itself. So if we take a quick look at the bass tone, I can play it for you here. When it's soloed, you can hear it's very clearly programmed. And what I'm using for that is Gin Bass 2, which is absolutely amazing. It is a sample library of a Dingwall bass, I believe, which just has this amazing mid-range bite to it. It is also running through a little bit of compression and then this incredible Neural DSP dark glass pedal here as well. Layered alongside the bass and guitar then is this synth patch, which I'll solo for you here. This is a serum patch that I've made myself, but the important part of it is that it is actually running through an amp sim down here. So I'm going to turn the amp sim off and play you the synth sound, and then turn it on, and you'll hear the difference. So absolutely enormous difference. And what I find this helps with is adding a synth on top of a guitar riff like this adds this kind of like industrial electronic edge, but when it's a raw synth sound, it can often sound a bit too tacky and electronic and gaudy for what I'm looking for. So running it through a guitar amp like this really helps it blend in with the rest of the instrumental. It gives it this like guitar-like edge that helps it just sit in the right place between the guitars and the bass. It's not shining through so much that you go, oh, this is an electronic song now, but it is still adding this like artificial electronic edge in the background. So that's what I find this really helpful for. I'm gonna play all three of those layers together for you, and you'll be able to hear them kind of working together to create this big sound. On top of that rhythm section, there is also this lead guitar line here that comes in halfway through the hook. Super simple line, and just adds a bit of activity on top of everything to keep the track moving along. We're using archetype Gojira here for it. We've got a bit of overdrive turned on and quite a bit of chorus as well. A little bit of delay and reverb happening as well within the amp sim. But other than that, very, very simple. So moving on then from the instrumental, we'll take a quick look at the vocals.
I gave it my all and got nowhere.
So for everything I do, almost, I will triple track my vocals. So one in the middle, one on the left, one on the right. That's exactly what I've done here. The processing is really, really simple. Just have one instance of gain reduction, which is a really heavy compressor from Joey Sturgis. It's an absolutely incredible plugin. I put it on almost all of my vocal channels, but it's especially good for harsh vocals or screamed vocals. Then we've got a little bit of de-essing going on, a low pass filter, and then on the center track we have an instance of Sound Toys Decapitator, but the drive is actually on 0, so it's just providing like a tiny bit of compression but not much else. I think I actually probably accidentally left this on. I would suspect that when I was initially like mixing the track, I turned it on, cranked it up, decided I didn't like it and brought it down to 0, but never actually deleted the plugin. But it's there anyway. So then the other thing going on in this chorus is we have some gang vocals in the background as well that kind of punctuate some of the lines.
I got nowhere.
And then on their own.
I got nowhere.
So this is really, really fun. What I do is basically record loads and loads of different takes of the same line. I'll try and change my voice a little bit. I'll do some takes like further from the mic, some really, really close, and like just kind of almost put on weird accents or weird voices to try and kind of pretend to be a load of different people. Then I'll process all of them together. So we've got glue compressor here, just bringing everything together, tightening them up, another bit of compression. Again, we've got Sound Toys Decapitator, but it's actually driving it this time. And then a bit of an EQ to kind of add a bit of presence up at the top, but ultimately keep them out of the way of the main vocals because they do need to be in the background. So that brings us to the end of the hook section. I'll take you briefly through the rest of the track, but we've covered all of the most important elements of this sound. So this track moves then into this verse section here. And then after that, we get this real machine gun breakdown section. So you can hear here on top of the drums, we have this kind of industrial metallic sample, just acting as a kind of pseudo snare bomb kind of thing, just adding a little bit of that industrial edge into the track. We also have a lead guitar line that comes in here halfway through this section. Very, very old school, like 2005 era metalcore riff. This is just archetype Gojira again, highest gain amp, and we just have the EQ within the amp set to filter out all of the low and high frequencies just to give it that real radio effect. After this section, we get another hook, which is identical to the first section, and then that hook breaks down into this build-up section here. So interesting thing in this section, we have this kind of super noisy guitar layer happening on top of the regular rhythm guitars. So I'll solo that here. So what's happening here basically is I've quad tracked this section, and on these two extra tracks, we have Isotope Trash just pushing huge amounts of like saturation into the signal and creating this really, really, really chaotic noise. This is then really heavily filtered, so all of the low end is taken out, big dip around here where the rhythm guitars are very present. And then we have a boost at the top of the frequency spectrum to hone in on that kind of like high-end noise and presence. So I'm going to play this section without those noisy guitars and you'll hear the difference they make. You can hear how much high-end chaos they bring into the build-up there. This build-up then brings the track into this kind of anticlimactic breakdown section here. Super fun, ultra heavy. I love a good closed hi-hat breakdown. It's always good crack. There's not really anything interesting production-wise to talk about here. Everything is just kind of chugging along as it has been throughout the rest of the track. And then this breakdown moves straight into the outro of the track, which features like a tempo slowdown and a super heavy opened up breakdown, which I'll play for you here. Super heavy outro, the best way to do it, in my opinion. The only things happening here that we haven't touched on before is there's a couple of sub drops just really locking in that heaviness. Just kind of happening at the start of each round. There is also this kind of static, garbled noise happening in the background as well. So the way I made this is by taking random samples that I had lying in my hard drive and running them through this plugin called Portal. It's absolutely amazing. It's kind of like a granular plugin, but you can really destroy sounds with it. So this is the original sample with no Portal.
It's one of those things we're waiting for forever.
Just kind of chopped up random guy talking audio. And then I've run it through Portal and recorded a load of automation within the plugin itself. So that looks like this. So you can hear it just kind of chopping up the sample there. Then I bounced down that into another audio track and then ran that audio track through Ableton's stock saturator and a bit of an EQ, which created this. I then repeated that exact process with a kind of static noise sample that I also had in my hard drive to create this. And then the two of them layered together sound like this. And it just kind of adds a weird, chaotic atmosphere on top of that outro breakdown, and also complements the kind of semi-industrial electronic vibes that have been present throughout the rest of the song. So that's the end of the track. That's everything. Thanks so much for watching. If there was anything in here that you think I went by too fast or that you'd like me to expand on, let me know in the comments. If you liked what you heard here, please do check out my EP and all my other music. It's available on every streaming service. You will find more tracks like this. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. It helps a lot. Otherwise, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day or night whenever you happen to be seeing this. Cheers.